In the stillness of night, when the world softens into a gentle hum and your breath slows to a quieter rhythm, there is a mountain that waits beyond the veils of cloud and time. Mount Everest, or Chomolungma as she is known to those who live in her sacred shadow, breathes with the earth itself. Her story is not loud or swift, but ancient and slow, as though whispered by the wind across millennia. Tonight, as you lie in the softness of your bed, let us drift gently up her silent slopes, step by step, unveiling the quiet wonders she holds. Long before any human stood beneath her sky-piercing peak, Everest began her journey not in the clouds but in the depths of an ancient ocean. The rocks that now sit atop the world were once coral reefs, submerged under warm, shallow seas. These stones, shaped by water and time, tell stories of marine life that swam above them 450 million years ago. Imagine, now, the top of the world as an ancient seabed, where once fish darted and waves shimmered. It is a secret the mountain still holds, tucked beneath snow and sky. There is a gentle poetry in the way Everest grows. She rises each year by about 4 millimeters, lifted slowly by the colliding plates of the earth. The Himalayas, this great spine of the world, are still alive, still climbing, still moving with a pace as unhurried as sleep itself. Each breath you take now mirrors that pace, slow, soft, and unceasing. Above her slopes, the air thins into silence. Oxygen becomes rare, and the sky deepens into a darker blue, as though night itself begins earlier on her flanks. Here, the human body slows down too, learning a new rhythm, finding a quieter beat. And yet, life still stirs. There are tiny spiders, Himalayan jumping spiders, who live even at 6,700 meters, among the highest permanent residents on Earth. They feed on insects carried by the wind. Such resilience, wrapped in such smallness, is one of Everest's many miracles. When the wind calms and the sun casts its gold across ice and stone, Everest reveals her ice towers, seracs, shimmering like frozen cathedrals. These icy sculptures form and collapse in silence, a quiet cycle of creation and return. They speak a language of impermanence, of beauty that changes moment to moment, like thoughts drifting across a sleepy mind. Far below, nestled in the folds of the mountain's skirt, are valleys where snow leopards move like whispers. They are rarely seen, almost mythic in their grace. Their fur mirrors the stone and shadow, and their presence is more often guessed than known. To walk where they walk is to be invited into the deeper secrets of Everest, the kind that never shout, only gently reveal. The human spirit has long been drawn to Everest, not for conquest, but for connection. The first recorded attempt to reach her summit was made in 1921 by a British reconnaissance expedition. But even before that, local Sherpas revered her as sacred, a home of gods and spirits. The mountain was never empty, only waiting to be heard. Above the clouds, stars feel closer. On clear nights, from the higher camps, climbers say it seems as though the Milky Way flows right through the summit. The universe opens in a hush, vast and gentle, like an endless lullaby sung by the stars themselves. Even the snow here is not simple. Some crystals on Everest grow into delicate columns and plates, shaped by the rarefied atmosphere and bitter cold. Scientists have studied these patterns to understand climate changes written in snow. Every flake a note in a quiet, ancient song. And then there is the wind. It can roar like 1,000 voices or fall utterly still. When it sleeps, the silence is complete, a silence so profound it feels like the earth holding its breath. And maybe it is. Maybe in those moments, the mountain, the sky, and all that lives between them simply rest. But the wind, too, carries mysteries. On certain rare days, it brings with it the scent of distant forests carried up from the valleys below. Pine, cedar, and ancient resin lifted on invisible currents. For just a moment, the scent of trees brushes the air near the summit, a whisper from the lower world. Beneath the ice, trapped inside ancient glaciers, are pockets of air untouched for thousands of years. Scientists have extracted these air bubbles, listening to the breath of an older Earth. When you breathe in, you are sharing an atmosphere not just with the present, but with time itself. Each step taken on Everest echoes lightly, cushioned by snow and history. Beneath your feet lie layers of monsoon and frost, of footsteps long vanished. The mountain remembers every soul who ever climbed her, each footfall a soft mark in her memory, and she holds them not with weight, but with silence. At certain times of year, lenticular clouds hover above her peak. These lens-shaped clouds, smooth and luminous, can look like ships or celestial sails. Some believe they are omens. Others see them as Everest's crown, formed by wind meeting mountain in perfect, wordless balance. Yaks, the lifeline of Everest's lower slopes, move steadily along the trails. Their breath clouds in the cold air, and their hooves find paths through rock and snow with quiet certainty. They are memory bearers, carrying food, warmth, and tradition up the winding spine of the land. On some nights, strange lights have been reported above Everest. Tiny flickers or pulses, perhaps lightning in dry air, perhaps something else. These moments are rare and fleeting, but they linger in the minds of those who saw them, like dreams that refuse to fade. And in the silent moments between wind and thought, there is a presence, a feeling, as if the mountain is not only a place, but a being, not alive as we are, but aware in a different way, observing, holding. So now, as your breathing slows further, let Everest wrap you in her quiet. She is the stillness between stars. She is the breath of stone. Let her ancient peace guide you gently into sleep, where mountains dream and skies listen. As the moon glides across the sky, painting soft light over the world below, our journey continues, gently ascending the slopes of the Earth's most silent giant. Everest does not rush, and neither do we. With every breath, we draw closer to the mystery that wraps around her like the morning mist. And tonight, we uncover 10 more soft-spoken truths, not as declarations, but as dreams murmured by the mountain herself. High upon her shoulders, there lies a zone known as the Death Zone, a name that sounds sharp, but here, let it soften into understanding. This is the place where the air is too thin to sustain human life for long. And yet, it is not death that defines this space, but the clarity that comes with it. Here, thought slows, the mind drifts. Some climbers describe it as a strange serenity, as though time becomes weightless. It is the mountain's own version of silence, so complete, it touches the soul. The jet stream kisses Everest's peak for much of the year, wrapping her in fierce winds that reach over 160 kilometers an hour. But there are quiet days, rare windows when the wind rests, and the summit is suddenly still. These windows, only a few days each may, are the mountain's whispered invitation to ascend when her breath aligns with the breath of the world. Within her folds are lakes that are growing. Glaciers that once held ancient ice are now melting slowly, revealing pools of sapphire and turquoise. These glacial lakes, as they expand, reflect both beauty and warning. Yet when seen from above, they are like the eyes of Everest herself, deep, watching, filled with the sky. Beneath her surface, there are echoes of movement. Scientists have placed sensors along her flanks and found that the mountain sings, not in tones we can hear, but in tremors, vibrations, a constant, low hum of the Earth's voice. Everest is not still. She hums with the life of the planet. And sometimes she surprises. In 2015, a powerful earthquake shifted Everest's height by a few centimeters. The mountain moved, not broken, not bowed, but reminded us that even the greatest are part of something larger, something that breathes and stirs beneath the stone. The summit itself is small, a patch of snow and rock no bigger than a dining table. To stand there is to stand in a place where the world curves gently below you in every direction. Many climbers weep not from exhaustion, but from the overwhelming quietude, a silence filled not with emptiness, but with awe. Even here, where life seems impossible, microbes cling to existence. Extremophiles, tiny forms of life, have been found in the ice and snow. They survive ultraviolet light, thin air, and freezing temperatures. They are Everest's most secret citizens, hidden from view, living slow, patient lives. Each route up Everest tells a different story. The south route from Nepal is well-trodden, rich with history, while the north route from Tibet offers more isolation. Both paths are steeped in ritual. Climbers pause at sacred rocks, offer scarves, burn incense. It is a mountain of the spirit as much as of the body. The Khumbu Icefall, near the base, is one of the most dangerous yet mesmerizing places on the mountain. It shifts constantly, with towers of ice that groan and crack, reshaping themselves daily. But in the quiet of early morning, it glows blue and silver, a frozen river of dreams. And scattered across Everest slopes are remnants, old oxygen bottles, torn flags, forgotten boots. Not just litter, but artifacts of those who came before, each one a whisper of a story. Some are gathered by Sherpas on quiet missions of respect, carrying history gently down the mountain. Let this part of our journey end here for now, with your breath slow and steady, like snow falling in the high stillness of night. The mountain is not a place to conquer, but a place to listen to. And in her slow song, may you find peace enough to drift into deep and healing sleep. Night deepens, and the stars lean in a little closer, their light barely brushing the quiet curves of Everest's endless ridges. The mountain waits with patience beyond time, and we return to her, gently, like a leaf settling onto still water. Let us drift further into her presence, through mist and memory, as she unveils more of her hidden truths, soft as snowfall, steady as breath. High on Everest, even shadows have weight. The mountain casts her silhouette across the clouds at dawn and dusk, forming a vast triangular shape that stretches far beyond her base. It's a rare sight, the only place on Earth where a mountain's shadow touches the sky in such a way. It appears like a doorway to another world, a pyramid drawn by light and air. She is not only the highest point on Earth, she is also the slowest witness to sunrise. Each morning, while valleys awaken in gold, Everest holds the last hues of night a little longer. Her summit is the last to be kissed by morning and the first to see the stars return. In this way, she bridges day and night like a great, silent sentinel. In the folds of her lower flanks, the rhododendron forests bloom each spring in explosions of crimson and violet. These ancient trees thrive in cool, misted air, and their petals scatter like dreams across the trails. For the locals, the flowering is a sign of blessing, a reminder that even among giants, delicate beauty still finds its place. The mountain teaches slowness. As one ascends, time itself seems to lengthen. Every step becomes intentional. The air no longer supports haste. And in this enforced stillness, many travelers discover an inner rhythm, one that matches the whispering wind, the crunch of boot in snow, the soft creak of ice. The oldest known rock on Everest is the Chomolungma Formation, a limestone that dates back over 400 million years. This stone, once lying beneath prehistoric oceans, now sits atop the world. It holds within it fossils of trilobites, tiny sea creatures that lived and died long before the first birds flew. Holding a piece of this rock is holding time itself. There are invisible lines across Everest, jet streams of wind, layers of temperature, paths of migrating birds. Yes, birds. The bar-headed goose, light as thought and strong as myth, has been recorded flying over Everest on its journey between Tibet and India. At 9,000 meters, it soars where even helicopters struggle. Its wings part the air above the summit with a grace that belongs to sky dwellers alone. Sherpas, the soul of Everest's people, carry not only loads and gear, but knowledge passed down in stories and footsteps. They walk with a reverence for the mountain, not as something to be defeated, but as a mother spirit. Their prayers are stitched into the wind, and their presence is felt in every safe return. Among the rituals before an ascent, climbers often visit a lama to receive a blessing. The ceremony includes juniper smoke and the flutter of prayer flags, which carry words of hope and protection into the breeze. These flags fade over time, their threads fraying like wishes released slowly into the world. In the blue light of twilight, Everest becomes less a mountain and more an idea, vast, ungraspable, infinite. She is not a destination but a dream, not a goal but a question. And with each soft fact we learn, we do not solve her mystery, we become part of it. Now let your thoughts slow like snowfall. The mountain watches, but she does not demand. She simply is. And in her presence, we remember how to be still, how to listen, how to sleep. Let the quiet guide you, and let the silence of the heights rock you into rest. The night stretches out, long and deep, like a river of velvet flowing beneath stars that seem older than thought itself. And in the heart of that night, Everest waits, not in silence, but in stillness. A stillness that speaks without sound, that opens not with doors, but with breath. Let us step further into that stillness, you and I, and listen as the mountain continues her quiet unveiling. The glaciers on Everest move, not with haste, but with the certainty of ancient time. The Khumbu Glacier flows downward at a pace so slow it is almost imperceptible, about 4 centimeters a day. But over years, this movement shapes the very bones of the mountain. Crevasses yawn open and then close again. Ice walls shift and settle, and what seems eternal is in fact always changing. It is a reminder that nothing is truly still, even in the silence of great heights. Sometimes, The ice moans at night, not from pain, but from memory, the memory of motion, the echo of its own slow journey through centuries. Snow on Everest is not just snow. Each flake is a record of the sky it fell from, its temperature, its humidity, its winds. Scientists have studied deep snow cores from Everest to understand the history of monsoons and dust storms. In this way, the mountain is not only a place of height, but a library of air, where time is kept in frozen layers. Every winter writes a chapter, every gust a paragraph. You can almost hear it whisper, if you place your ear gently near the surface. Stories not meant to be spoken, but only understood. Not far from the base of the mountain lies Pangbosh Monastery, home to one of the oldest known representations of the Yeti, the abominable snowman of legend. A supposed Yeti scalp and hand were once housed there, relics shrouded in mystery and story. While science may question, the local people do not. For them, the Yeti is not a monster, but a guardian of the high places, a protector of sacred land. Children grow up with tales told in firelight, where snow creatures move not with menace, but with grace, seen only by those who truly believe. There is a place on the mountain where the snow changes its voice. Just below Camp 3, the surface sometimes forms thin, crusted sheets over powdery layers. When you step on them, the snow sings, a low, hollow hum, like the breath of the mountain itself. Climbers speak of this sound with reverence, as though they have tapped into something not quite of this world. It is not music, not really, but something older, a vibration that touches not the ears, but the ribs, the spine, the deep marrow of the soul. The color white on Everest is not one color. It is 1,000 shades: pearl, frost, bone, silver, moonlight. Under sunrise, it glows with gold. At twilight, it deepens into lavender and blue. Each shift in light repaints the mountain anew. No one has ever seen the same Everest twice. Photographers try to capture her, but she changes faster than shutters click. She is a woman of mirrors, always turning, always reflecting what the light asks of her. In the thin air above 8,000 meters, strange things happen to the mind. Time stretches. Memory flickers. Some climbers report dreams while still awake, visions of voices, of warmth, of distant music. These are not hallucinations of danger, but gentle phantoms, perhaps offered by the mountain as a way to ease the climb through air too thin to carry ordinary thought. Others say they feel someone walking beside them, though they are alone. Perhaps Everest lends companions to those who need them most. The Icefall Doctors, a team of Sherpas who maintain the route through the treacherous Khumbu Icefall, work in rhythm with the mountain's breath. They listen for cracks, watch for subtle shifts, and replace ladders and ropes with calm precision. Their work is quiet, sacred, often done before dawn. They are guardians of a path made of change. Each morning, before their work begins, they light incense. They speak to the ice, not in words, but in presence, asking for passage, for safety. And sometimes, the mountain grants it. Once, long ago, Everest was not known as a singular peak. She was part of a great, unnamed wall. It was only in 1856 that the British named her after Sir George Everest, though he himself never saw the mountain. The local names, Chomolungma in Tibetan, Sagarmatha in Nepali, mean much more. They speak of sky goddesses and Mother Earth. They speak of reverence. They speak of knowing without needing to measure. In these names, the mountain is not an object, but a presence, an elder, a protector, a keeper of sky and stone. The sound of the wind near the summit has been described as a voice. Not human, not animal, but elemental. It rises and falls in waves, not unlike the ocean. Some say it feels like standing inside the breath of the planet. Others simply listen and are changed. It is not loud. It is vast. It is not violent. It is whole. And in it, many have felt themselves dissolve, not in fear, but in awe. To hear Everest speak is to forget the need for language. And on rare days, after storms, when the clouds lift suddenly and light pours across the summit, the air is filled with diamond dust, tiny ice crystals that float and shimmer, catching sunlight in a silent dance. It is not a storm nor snow. It is Everest shining, quietly, for those who are still enough to see. These moments last only seconds, but they are held forever in the hearts of those who witness them. A shimmer of soul across the sky. There is an old saying among the Sherpas that those who climb with respect climb lighter. And it is true. The mountain knows your intent. She hears the silence between your steps. She remembers kindness more than courage, humility more than pride. So sleep now, held in that shimmer. Let the breath of the mountain become your breath. Let the hush of her upper slopes cradle your thoughts. She does not ask to be understood, only witnessed. Let her be your lullaby tonight. Let the quiet carry you. As the stars turn slowly above the world, casting pale light over valleys far below, Everest remains as she has always been, vast, still, and dreaming. The wind softens around her ridges, and the snow hushes its whisper. Tonight, we return to her again, not to climb, but to listen. With every breath, she tells us more, unraveling her long memory like a song sung beneath the surface of sleep. Beneath Everest's icy surface, deep within her frozen heart, lie hidden lakes. These subglacial lakes do not freeze, even in temperatures that turn the very air to glass. Insulated by layers of rock and ice, warmed by geothermal heat from the Earth's core, they pulse slowly in the dark. They are invisible to the eye, but satellites have traced their quiet presence, like sleeping hearts beneath a cold skin. Some believe these waters hold ancient life, microbes untouched for millennia, secrets that have waited in darkness, undisturbed and unhurried. The snowstorms on Everest can be both fierce and featherlight. There are days when snow falls like breath, so fine it vanishes before it touches the ground. And there are nights when the wind sculpts drifts into waves, crests, spires. Snow becomes architecture, temporary and intricate. No two snowfalls are alike, and the mountain wears each like a cloak tailored by the sky. Sometimes, just before sunrise, the air near base camp fills with a sound like wind chimes. It is not metal ringing, but the clinking of ice crystals moving against each other, stirred by the mountain's breath. The sound is delicate, high and soft, like a lullaby played on glass. Climbers who hear it often fall silent, sensing they are hearing something rare, a music made by cold and stillness. Deep crevasses on Everest glow. At midday, when the sun is high, its light filters down into the deep blue cracks of the glacier, illuminating them from within. The color is not like sky or water, but deeper, as though the ice remembers an ancient sea. Standing near one is like standing beside a sleeping giant's eye. They are beautiful and dangerous and never fully seen. Their depth is a mystery. Some have no bottom, at least none known. They open suddenly and close slowly, shifting with the glacier's timeless breath. High above, on narrow ridges where few dare tread, prayer flags flutter. Strung by climbers and locals alike, they do not mark ownership, but offering. Blue for sky, white for cloud, red for fire, green for water, yellow for earth. Their colors fade in the sun and wind, becoming part of the mountain. As they unravel, their prayers are said to be released, not lost. Even torn, they are whole in purpose. The mountain has weather, but she also has moods. There are days when she is cloaked in mist and mystery, and others when she stands clear, every ridge and crevice etched in sunlight. She responds to no pattern. Forecasts are guesses. She decides. Sherpas say the mountain chooses who may pass and who must turn back, and sometimes they feel her answer long before the summit comes into view. There is a zone on Everest known for its silence. Between camps 3 and 4, the wind often drops, and for a brief stretch, the only sound is your own breath. Here, climbers describe a feeling of stepping out of time. No voices, no birds, no footsteps but your own. It is the closest many have come to true stillness. Some call it the hush. Others call it the breath of the gods. Scientists have placed weather stations on Everest slopes, small clusters of instruments standing against snow and sky. These stations collect data, wind speeds, oxygen levels, radiation, temperatures that plummet below -40 degrees Celsius. But more than that, they are quiet sentinels. They listen, measure, witness. Their presence brings human curiosity into conversation with ancient presence. They do not disturb. They observe. Even the stars look different from Everest. With thinner atmosphere and less light from below, the sky unfolds in sharper clarity. The constellations feel nearer, as if the mountain has lifted you into their world. Shooting stars leave longer trails. Satellites blink like distant thoughts. Some climbers say they've never seen the sky so fully, nor felt so small beneath its endless hush. And in the final moments before summit, that last step, that last breath, many climbers describe something unexpected. Not triumph, not exhilaration, but stillness, a vast, internal quiet. The realization that the mountain does not mark achievement, but awakening. That to reach the top is not to conquer Everest, but to join her, for a moment, in her eternal pause. So now, breathe with her. Let your thoughts become snow, drifting gently into the valleys of sleep. Let your heartbeat slow to match the pace of ice. Everest is not watching. She is dreaming, and in her dream, you rest. Sleep well, in the shadow of her stars. The wind carries a gentler hush tonight, as if Everest herself is sighing in her sleep. Above the valleys and rivers, above the pine forests and terraced fields, she rests beneath stars that do not blink, but shimmer in patient silence. And as your breath slows, soft and steady, we return again to her world, a place where time folds like fabric, where each snowflake is a memory, and each rock a forgotten word. Tonight, Everest will tell us more. She will speak not in thunder or grandeur, but in murmurs, meant only for those who listen with stillness. Somewhere near her base, hidden between ridges where the sun rarely lingers, grow the Himalayan blue poppies. Their petals are a color not found in the ordinary world, a kind of twilight blue, luminous and soft. They bloom quietly, fragile yet resilient, rooted in soil colder than frost. For many, they are a symbol of the impossible, something so delicate flourishing in a place so harsh. To see one is to feel, even briefly, that miracles are stitched into the earth. There is an old glacier, cloaked in time, that wins its way along Everest's shadow. Its name is Kangshung, and it flows eastward, away from the well-trodden paths. It is less known, less visited, but it holds an untouched silence. Here, avalanches fall like sighs, and the snow carries no footprints. The ice is deep, blue, unspoken. In the hidden folds of this glacier, some believe there are caves carved by water that sings as it melts, echoing like ancient lullabies through frozen corridors. High above the ice fields, just below the south summit, the rocks are stained with strange marks, rust red and ochre streaks. These are traces of iron, oxidized over time by wind and weather. Scientists have studied them, trying to understand their source. But climbers, in their quiet exhaustion, often see more. They see the veins of the mountain herself, the blood of stone, exposed to the sky, telling a story that predates language. In this rare air, the body forgets its usual ways. The heart beats faster, the blood thickens, the lungs pull harder. But strangely, the mind becomes clearer. Some speak of moments of startling clarity, when thoughts become light, unburdened, and truth feels closer than breath. Others speak of a great calm, a peace that wraps around them even as the wind bites and the cold presses inward. The mountain, it seems, teaches surrender, not defeat, but acceptance of smallness in the presence of something vast. Everest has her own clouds, lenticular formations, shaped like smooth discs or long, undulating ribbons, often crown her summit. They form when high winds shape the moisture in the air, sculpting it into still forms above the moving earth. To see them is to witness the invisible architecture of wind. At dawn, these clouds catch the first light, glowing gold and rose, as if the mountain wears a halo. There is a bird, the Himalayan monal, whose feathers shimmer with all the colors of sunrise. Blues, greens, fiery orange, and deep violet ripple across its body with every movement. It nests in the lower reaches, far below the snowline, but its call sometimes echoes upward, a soft warble that carries far in the thin air. It is a sound of life, of persistence, of color against white. And those who hear it say it lingers long after the bird has flown. Deep in the history of Everest, there was a time when her presence was known only to those who lived in her shadow. Before maps and altimeters, before surveys and summits, the mountain was a spirit. Sherpas believed she was the seat of Myoling Sangma, the goddess of the sky and guardian of peace. Offerings were made not to win her favor, but to honor her presence. And still today, every expedition begins with puja, a ceremony of incense, chants, and prayer flags. Even the bravest climbers bow their heads before they ascend. Boulders on Everest move, not quickly, not often, but with certainty. Frozen in place for decades, they may suddenly shift after a thaw, tumbling silently down a slope. No one sees them move, yet their paths are traced in the snow, their presence changed. It is as if the mountain rearranges her thoughts in her sleep. Sometimes, during whiteout conditions, the world vanishes. There is no horizon, no up or down, only a blankness filled with swirling snow. In these moments, climbers speak of feeling as though they've stepped out of the world and into something ancient and unformed, a space between. Sound becomes muffled. Time loses shape. The only guide is memory and faith in the rope ahead. There is a cave high on the north face, carved by wind and ice, just large enough to shelter a person. Inside, The sound of the storm outside disappears almost completely. It is a place of pause, of reprieve, used by only a few. Some say they dreamed vividly within it. Others say they wept, not from fear, but from a feeling they could not name. Perhaps the mountain, in rare kindness, offers her own moments of sanctuary. Even the ice breathes. At night, when temperatures drop and the wind stills, the surface of glaciers can crack softly as they contract. These are the exhalations of cold, the adjustments of ancient ice to the turn of night. If you listen closely, you might hear them, faint, irregular sighs, like the settling of an old house. But this house is made of water and memory, older than cities, deeper than song. On very clear days, from the summit, one can see the curvature of the earth. The horizon bends slightly, and the clouds stretch below like fields of cotton. There are no fences, no borders, no lines. Just the curve, the sky, the breathless view. It humbles. It quiets. It changes the shape of thought. And still, Everest dreams. So now, breathe with her again. Your heartbeat need not rush. Let the softness of snow become your blanket. Let your thoughts grow quiet, like the wind settling into the folds of stone. Everest will hold you tonight, not as a conqueror, but as a guest. One more soul carried gently across her ancient bones. Sleep now, and when you dream, let it be of glaciers that glow from within, of blue poppies blooming in frost, of birds that shimmer like dawn. Let it be of silence that speaks, and of mountains that listen. The night carries a deeper hush now. It presses gently against the canvas of stars, cradling the world in a quiet more ancient than language. And above all, Everest watches, not with eyes, but with the still presence of something older than time. As you lie here, safe and still, she opens once more the slow story of her being, not in haste, not in grandeur, but in the soft rhythm of snowfall and dream. Beneath the layers of snow and ice, Everest holds relics not of treasure, but of testimony. There are remnants of early expeditions, canvas tents now threads in frost, tin cans buried in shifting snow, rope faded to the color of mist. These objects do not decay quickly. In this airless cold, they endure. Each one a whisper from a climber long gone. Each one a frozen word in a sentence the mountain still remembers. Close to the western comb, a broad, glacial valley high above base camp, there is a place where sunlight gathers in gold. This place, though surrounded by deathly cold, can feel warm. The reflection of the sun off ice and snow creates a microclimate, a bowl of warmth cradled in winter. Here, climbers rest and dry their gear. And sometimes they fall silent, struck by the contrast. Warmth in the heart of cold, peace in the arms of danger. A reminder that extremes are not enemies, but partners in nature's design. There is a rhythm to the winds on Everest. They rise in the late afternoon, fall just before dawn, curl and coil along ridges like ribbons of breath. The mountain is not merely shaped by weather. She composes it. And so, the wind becomes more than air. It is a tide, an exhale, a mood. To hear it shift is to know the mountain is thinking. The bodies of those who did not return still rest on her slopes. They are not spoken of lightly. Many have become landmarks, not out of disrespect, but remembrance. Everest does not forget. Their names are etched in the minds of those who follow, and their presence is not morbid, but sacred. Some are visited, gently, each year, not to mourn, but to honor. In the early morning light, When the snow is untouched, the surface sparkles with 1,000 tiny reflections. Not bright, not loud, but subtle, like stardust fallen upon the earth. These crystals form when moisture in the air freezes in place overnight, a phenomenon known as surface hoarfrost. It vanishes with the first step, the first breath. But for a moment, the mountain becomes a mirror to the sky. The Sherpas believe that the mountain holds moods, and these moods respond to intention. Before each climb, they offer juniper to the fire, strings of prayer flags, and murmured mantras. The puja ceremony is not ritual for show, but conversation with the unseen and asking for balance, for permission. Some climbers say they feel different after the ceremony. Lighter. Accepted. Everest geology is written in folds and layers. Near the summit lies a band of yellow rock, the Yellow Band, composed of metamorphosed sediments, once seabed. It is one of the few places on Earth where you can place your hand on the remains of an ancient ocean while clouds drift beneath your feet. In one place, sea creatures slept. In another, your heartbeat echoes in the sky. At night, if you camp high on the mountain, sometimes your breath will freeze in delicate threads. Not mist, but filaments, icy lace suspended in air. They catch moonlight and seem to float, not fall. A fragile web woven of breath and cold. They do not last, but in the instant they exist, they are among the mountain's most silent gifts. There is a slope known for its silence, not absence of sound, but the presence of deep quiet. It lies between the south summit and the Hillary Steppe. Here, even wind forgets its name. Many who pass this way do so in darkness, with only the crunch of their crampons and the beat of their hearts. In that space, with the sky above and the world below, it is easy to forget the idea of conquest. There is only motion, only being, and in that being, the mountain breathes with you. So close your eyes now. Let Everest fold around your thoughts like snow over stone. Let her stillness echo within you. She does not sleep, but she watches gently, with patience older than stars. Sleep, as the summit dreams. Night stretches far and wide, blanketing the world in shades of soft charcoal and silver. In this gentle depth, Everest becomes more than a mountain. She becomes a presence, a pulse, a consciousness not made of thought, but of stone, ice, wind, and the wisdom of endless ages. As your breathing slows and your body melts into rest, we return to her slopes once more. The higher we journey, the quieter everything becomes. And in that quiet, stories unfold, not told, but revealed. Let us follow them. Along Everest's southern side, beyond the bustle of base camp and the familiar trails, lie hidden terraces carved by ancient glaciers. These steppes are vast, long, sweeping ledges of ice and rock, older than memory, layered like forgotten pages in a book that no longer has a title. When clouds descend low and roll across these terraces, they form what some climbers call sky rivers. Mist flowing over stone like water, curling and bending in silence. To walk through one is to walk inside a moving dream, half seen, half felt. In the early mornings, ravens come. Not many, just a few. Glossy black, with wings that cut through the cold air like thoughts. They circle above the tents, perch on outcroppings, call out once or twice. A low, throaty sound that seems almost human in its depth. These birds are watchers. The Sherpas say they are messengers, carrying news between this world and the one beyond the clouds. And sometimes, When a climber is lost, the ravens return and circle silently for hours, as if bearing memory in their wings. There are rocks near Camp 2 that bear striations, long, fine grooves etched into their surfaces, like the scratches of some enormous, slow-moving hand. These are glacier scars, left as the ice passed, dragging grit and stone over stone. They are the mountain's diary, written not in ink, but in pressure and passage. If you trace your finger along them, you are following the footsteps of ice from another age. During storms, lightning can strike the summit, but it doesn't always behave as it does in lower lands. Here, at the roof of the world, electricity crackles differently. Sometimes, instead of bolts, there is a glow, a corona discharge, a soft, eerie light that surrounds objects. Ice axes hum, hair lifts, the air tingles, and for a moment, the mountain becomes a cathedral of static and shadow. Within the bodies of climbers, changes begin as soon as they ascend. Red blood cell counts rise. Capillaries expand. The body tries to drink more air from air that holds almost none. But more curiously, something else happens, something quieter. Many climbers report that their dreams become vivid, intense, lucid, as if the altitude thins the veil not just between breath and breathlessness, but between waking and wonder. Dreams on Everest are not just imagination. They are conversations, perhaps with the mountain herself. Deep in the Khumbu icefall, there are towers of ice as tall as buildings, seracs, frozen into impossible shapes. Some stand like spires. Others lean and twist like dancers paused mid-movement. At night, the moon casts blue shadows between them, creating corridors of silence and silver. It is both beautiful and dangerous, but those who move carefully, with respect, sometimes speak of hearing the ice breathe, a slow groaning, shifting music, not unlike the sound of whales in a distant sea. At 7,000 meters, the color of the sky changes. It darkens slightly, becomes more profound. The stars feel closer. The blue is deeper, not quite night, but not fully day either. Some call it the color of the edge. It is the hue of thresholds, the place where earth ends and sky begins. To stand in this color is to stand in a liminal space, where gravity loosens and time becomes soft. The camps are not places of noise or boasting. They are places of quiet tasks, melting snow, checking gear, whispering stories over tea. There is a rhythm here, not of technology, but of survival. Water is precious. Fire is rare. Every gesture matters. And at night, the only sounds are the low flap of a tent in wind and the soft stirrings of sleep. Somewhere near the North Col, beneath a ridge that sees only a few hours of sun each week, ice forms in delicate feathers. Not solid frost, but crystalline ferns, long and fine, growing outward like wings. These are hoarfrost structures, formed in stillness, where the air holds moisture but no movement. They are gone with the first breeze, but for those who glimpse them, they are remembered always, the mountain's breath made visible. Far below, the Dud Kosi River runs, fed by Everest's melting glaciers. Its name means Milk River for its milky blue-white waters. As it flows, it carries flecks of Everest's body, fine glacial silt, ground stone, all the way to the lowlands, where it joins other rivers and eventually the sea. In this way, Everest touches even shores she has never seen. A mountain feeding oceans, a peak becoming part of distant tides. Snow blindness is a quiet danger, caused by UV light reflecting off snow. It comes not with pain, but with a gentle fading. Colors become muted. Vision blurs. Some describe it as walking into fog made of light. But with care, it fades. The body heals. The mountain, though harsh, allows return to sight. And many say that after the snow blindness lifts, the world seems brighter, sharper, as though you've been given new eyes. Yaks, the quiet beasts of burden, climb where few dare tread. Their lungs are wide, their hearts slow. They know the way without maps. At rest, they chew slowly, their breath steaming like incense. Their eyes are calm, old. They carry tents, food, dreams, and they are never hurried. Watching them move is like watching the mountain think, deliberate, powerful, without rush. Somewhere high, where most don't go, are rocks that ring when struck. A climber once tapped one with his ice axe, and it sang like a bell, clear, high, startling. The stone was dense, crystalline, formed under enormous pressure. That sound carried down the slope, and others paused, listening. It was one note, but it lingered. Everest, in that moment, was not just stone, but song. And still she sings, softly, constantly, in ice, in wind, in the breath of those who sleep near her heart. So rest now. Let your dreams rise like ravens into the high air. Let your thoughts become snow feathers. Let the hush of deep frost carry you gently toward the next ridge of sleep. Everest watches. Everest remembers. Everest waits. Above the clouds, where the sky begins to forget its color and the earth curves gently beneath, Everest waits. She does not move, and yet she changes always. She does not speak, and yet she teaches in whispers. Tonight, as you nestle into the hush of rest, we will climb once more, not with boots and rope, but with breath and story. The mountain has more to show, and she opens her heart only to those who ask with silence. Just above Camp 3, there's a stretch of snow known as the Silver Drift. It's not marked on maps. It's not noted in guidebooks. But those who've passed there remember. Here, for reasons still unknown, the snow often glitters more brightly than elsewhere. Scientists suggest it may be due to a certain angle of sun and crystal formation. But the Sherpas believe it's where spirits pass, where ancestors walk. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, it carries not a howl, but a murmur, a soft, layered sound, like many voices speaking in unison too softly to understand. Beneath Everest, caves run like veins. Formed by melting ice and ancient rivers, they stretch into darkness, hidden beneath the weight of ages. Some are only a few meters deep. Others twist and branch for unknown distances. No full map of these caverns exists, but explorers who have dared enter them describe walls that glisten with mineral frost, and chambers so quiet the sound of your heartbeat becomes a drum. In these places, light has never touched. The mountain dreams inward. At night, high above 8,000 meters, the stars shift, not in their course, but in their clarity. The lack of atmosphere, the sharp cold, it reveals constellations hidden to the valleys below. Tiny stars, usually veiled, emerge like dustings of silver. Some climbers lie awake just to watch them, letting the chill press against their tent, feeling closer to the sky than the soil. Here, you don't look up at the stars. You meet them at eye level. In one narrow passage between ridges, the wind carves patterns in snow so intricate they resemble feathers, leaves, script. These are sastrugi, sculpted snow formations shaped by prevailing winds over days, weeks. Walking among them feels like stepping into a frozen library, each drift a page, each ridge a sentence. They change with every storm, and yet their patterns echo some deeper language. A script of ice. Everest has moods, but she also has rhythms. There are days when the snow feels softer, when ice cleaves easily, when even the wind seems gentle. Then there are hours when every step feels resisted, when ropes freeze stiff and the cold pushes back like a wall. No weather report can predict this. Only those who listen, with souls, with lungs, with instinct, begin to sense the shift. It is not science, but relationship. Somewhere along the northeast ridge, climbers have seen halos, bright circles of light surrounding the sun or moon, caused by ice crystals and high cirrus clouds. These halos seem to float, luminous and unreal. Often, they come before a change in weather, but others say they mark a moment of passage, a silent permission. One climber whispered that the halo stayed with him long after he descended, not in the sky, but in his thoughts. In deep snow, footsteps echo, not as sound, but as sensation. Each step compresses layers of history, years of storms, months of sun, and the snow gives back a kind of pressure, a memory of what is past. Some climbers say that when they walk in these places, they feel accompanied, not haunted, but remembered. During particularly cold nights, your breath will freeze not just in the air, but on your sleeping bag, forming a thin shell of rime ice. In the morning, it cracks gently as you move, like delicate glass breaking. This sound, heard while still half asleep, becomes part of the symphony of Everest's mornings. Cracking frost, shifting snow, and the faint rustle of wind waking itself. There are rare days, usually after a long storm, when Everest is still, completely still. No wind, no snow falling, no shifting ice. In those hours, the silence is total, not the absence of sound, but the fullness of it. You feel it in your chest, in your ribs. It is the sound of a world paused. And in that pause, some hear answers to questions they didn't know they were asking. So now, in your own stillness, let her quiet enter you. Let your breath fall like snow over the ridge. Let your thoughts settle like dust on stone. Everest is not done telling her story, but for tonight, she rests, and so should you. Sleep within her dream. Let the mountain hold you. As night deepens into stillness, and the stars continue their silent wheel above, Everest sleeps with open eyes. Her silence is not absence. It is presence, absolute and complete. You rest now at her feet, cradled in the rhythm of her breathless heights. And tonight, we walk further into her dreaming, into the deeper snowdrifts of her memory, where the line between myth and geology dissolves like mist beneath moonlight. On Everest's upper slopes, beyond 8,500 meters, ice forms in ways unseen elsewhere on Earth. Delicate pinnacles, sometimes only inches high, sometimes taller than a person, rise in clusters across ridgelines. These are penitents, blades of hardened snow, shaped not by wind, but by sunlight. The high, dry air causes ice to sublimate, vanishing directly into vapor, leaving behind sharp ridges. They stand like silent sentinels, their points aimed at the sky, as if praying. In one narrow valley near the Rongbuk Glacier, there is a wind that sings only at night. During the day, it is still, but after dusk, it begins, a low whistle that rises to a trembling tone. Scientists have measured it, recorded its notes. It's caused by air passing through a natural stone arch, high above. But to the Sherpas, it is the voice of the mountain, humming herself to sleep. Near the summit, snow becomes something else, not soft, not powder, but crystal armor. The flakes are no longer flakes, but hard, flat plates that lock together. They chime against each other when stepped on, creating a sound like brittle glass. Climbers moving through this layer do so carefully, for it is beautiful but treacherous. It is as if the mountain is cloaked in mirrors. Each camp is a world within a world. Camp 4, perched on the South Col, is a place of wind and reflection. There, the sky is ink black even at midday. The rocks are smooth, worn not by water but by centuries of storm. And silence reigns. Climbers don't talk much here. Not because they are tired, though they are, but because there is nothing left to say. The mountain is said enough. Animals do not climb to Everest's summit, but their presence touches it. Snow leopards, ghost-like and nearly invisible, stalk the lower slopes. Their prints vanish quickly in fresh snow, but they are there, moving with intention, with grace. Ravens patrol the ridges. Himalayan tar graze on what little grows in stone cracks. Even the smallest beetle, frozen mid-crawl, has its place in this vast stillness. The first successful summit, in 1953, is well known. But few remember that during that same climb, Tenzing Norgay buried sweets in the snow as an offering. He did not do it for luck. He did it for thanks. He knew what the mountain had given and what she could take. That quiet gesture remains, unseen by most, but felt by many. Offerings continue today, rice, scarves, incense, not because Everest demands them, but because the heart insists. Everest casts the longest shadow on Earth. At sunrise, from certain angles, her silhouette stretches more than 100 kilometers across the plains of Tibet. It is not a shadow of darkness, but of shape, a memory of form projected across the sky. From the air, it looks like a giant triangle laid across the clouds. From the ground, it is a gentle reminder of where the earth ends and sky begins. Inside the summit rock itself, geologists have found marine fossils, shells, ancient corals, traces of life once buried beneath warm, shallow seas. Everest was once underwater. Her current height is the result of a slow, steady collision between tectonic plates, still ongoing today. So when you touch her stones, you are touching seabed. When you rest upon her snow, you are resting on a risen ocean. The oxygen here is only a third of what you breathe now. To climb without bottled oxygen is an act of deep connection, of syncing one's breath with the mountains. Few do it, fewer still return. But those who have described the sensation not as deprivation, but as transformation, they say the world narrows. Time bends, and somewhere in that thin air, the self disappears. What remains is presence, stripped bare. Sometimes, after a successful summit, climbers find it hard to speak of what they saw. Not because they forget, but because the language is too small. They talk instead of light, of quiet, of a feeling that settled into their bones and never quite left. That's what Everest does. She doesn't give stories. She gives silence that lives inside you. So rest now. Let that silence settle around you. Let your dreams stretch long like her shadow. Let your thoughts rise slow like morning light. Everest does not end. She unfolds. And as she unfolds, so do you. Sleep, and let her carry you further still. There are places where the world grows quiet enough to hear your own soul speak, and Everest is one of them. As night stretches long and deep across the Himalayas, The mountain draws her shawl of stars more tightly around her shoulders. And once again, we return to listen, to walk gently along her breathless ridges, where every sound is softened by snow, and every secret floats just beneath the wind. Let us go softly now, as the mountain opens yet another page of her ancient memory. There is a phenomenon called diamond dust. It happens rarely, on the clearest, coldest nights, when moisture in the air crystallizes and falls not as snow, but as shimmering ice, like powdered stars. On Everest, these silent sparkles sometimes fall across a climber's gloves, their pack, the fabric of a tent. They carry no weight. They make no sound. But in the moonlight, they glitter like wishes come to rest. High above, in the stillness of the death zone, a strange thing happens to light. It bends differently. Edges of rocks glow faintly. Shadows stretch in odd directions. This is due to atmospheric distortion, a bending of rays at extreme altitude. But those who experience it often describe it not as a trick of the eyes, but as a thinning of the veil between worlds, a place where the laws of light begin to forget themselves. Once, long ago, a Tibetan monk meditated in a cave halfway up the mountain. He stayed through a full winter, wrapped in silence and wool. Locals say he never left, not because he perished, but because the mountain accepted him. Some believe his presence still lingers in the wind, a guiding hush, a watchful peace. And when the air is just right, when breath and stillness align, some say they feel him near. On the glacier's surface, at dawn, a rare sound occurs: frost quakes. These are tiny tremors caused by the rapid contraction of surface ice when the sun touches it after a long freeze. They are not dangerous, but they resonate. The snow pops softly, like the earth exhaling after holding her breath all night. It is the mountain waking. The ropes that line the climbing routes are not new. They are replaced and repaired each season, but the path, the idea of the route, remains the same. Laid first by those who came decades ago, these lines are like trails of memory. Every hand that grips them joins a lineage, a shared thread through time. And some climbers, in moments of fatigue or awe, pause to rest their hands on the rope, not to pull, but to connect. In certain places, under the right conditions, Everest creates mirages, not of water, but of height. Peaks appear taller than they are, or closer. Valleys seem to deepen, open wider. The mountain reshapes perception, not through deception, but through depth. She plays with vision the way a musician plays with echo, not to confuse, but to invite closer listening. When you lie in your tent at night, wrapped in down and solitude, there is a moment when the cold no longer bites. Instead, it holds. It presses gently, like the weight of a heavy blanket. And in that stillness, many climbers report a sense of being not alone, but accompanied, not by people, but by presence. A sense that the mountain is near, not as an obstacle, but as a companion. The names etched into the rocks at base camp, initials scratched with knife or ice axe, are not vandalism. They are prayer, each one left by someone who needed to remember or be remembered. Over time, wind and snow soften them, but they don't disappear. The mountain remembers every mark, every boot print, every breath left behind. And in the deepest night, when even the stars seem to pause, Everest sings, not in notes or melodies, but in silence so rich, so complete, it becomes music. The kind that doesn't need to be heard to be known, the kind that lives in bones. So let that music hold you now. Let the cold wrap you like wool. Let the breath of snow cradle your thoughts. One more step remains. One more story. But for now, sleep. Everest is not done dreaming, and neither are you. Night draws in completely now, folding the world beneath its velvet hush. The stars burn steady above the Himalayas, distant yet familiar. And Everest, the great witness, the slow dreamer, the keeper of frozen time, releases her final secrets. You lie still, wrapped in warmth and wonder, and she speaks once more. Not loudly, not in words, but in the gentle pressure of memory, in the breath between snowflakes, in the rhythm of sleep. Above the balcony, on the southeast ridge, the final ascent begins. It is not steep in the way of cliffs, but in the way of breath. The air is too thin for speech. Each step is a meditation, each pause a prayer. But it is here, in the quietest moments, that the mountain feels most alive. The snow glistens with starlight. The wind, if it comes, is not a roar but a whisper. And ahead, the summit glows faintly in moonlight, as if waiting. When you reach the top, when you finally stand on that small circle of snow and rock that is the highest place on Earth, the world does not change. It becomes itself more fully. There is no celebration, only stillness, only sky, the curve of the planet, the endless expanse below, the pulse of the universe stretching outward in every direction. The summit is not a point. It is a breath held between moments. Some climbers leave tokens at the summit, a flag, a charm, a photograph. Others leave nothing. Some weep, some laugh, but most simply stand. They do not claim, they listen. And in that listening, the mountain answers, not with thunder, but with peace. The descent begins quickly. It must. The body cannot linger where it cannot live. And yet, the memory of that height, of that hush, stays. It stays in the bones, in the heartbeat, in the shape of the soul. Everest does not let go easily. She sends you back with more than you brought. Beneath the summit, along the South Summit Ridge, there is a ledge of ice where the wind sometimes plays in perfect pitch. Climbers have recorded it, a single tone, high and clear, like a flute made of sky. Scientists call it resonance, but others call it the mountain's voice. As you descend, each camp feels warmer. Each step brings back oxygen, sound, color, but the clarity remains. The world below, the trees, the rivers, the breath of the valley, feels changed. Not because it has, but because you have. At base camp, there is laughter again, firelight, the scent of tea, the soft press of earth beneath your boots. But Everest is not gone. She lingers. In your dreams, in your silence, in the way you now listen. And as your eyes grow heavier now, in your own bed, far from the snow and stars, Everest rests with you. Not as a memory, but as a presence. She has given you her quiet, and you carry it with you, always. So sleep now, with the summit still in your lungs. Sleep with starlight folded into your thoughts. Sleep as the mountain sleeps, above the noise, above the world, above the need to explain. Let the story close like a snowflake falling, softly, perfectly, gone before it touches the ground. There are stories that end, and there are stories that simply grow quiet, settling like snow over a long trail. This story, yours and Everest's, is the second kind. It does not conclude, it rests. It does not say goodbye, it closes its eyes for a while. Tonight, we begin the epilogue, not a summary, but a soft unfolding of all we've carried from those high, frozen slopes. This is not the descent. This is the remembering. Far below the summit, back where green things grow and rivers talk to stone, the spirit of Everest lingers. In the rustle of leaves, there is a rhythm that feels familiar, the same rhythm that marked each step on ice. Slow, steady, sacred. The mountain is not only in the clouds, she is in the valley too. You begin to feel her not just in memory, but in movement, in the way you now pause, in the way you breathe. You remember the sky first, that particular shade of blue that no camera can hold. Deep, absolute, the color of distance and closeness at once. The stars seemed to hum at that altitude, not with sound, but with a presence so complete it became a kind of knowing. A knowing that you were not alone, that the universe was vast, yes, but not empty. You remember the snow, not as cold, but as quiet. It was not an absence of noise. It was an invitation, a hush that asked you to listen more closely, not to the mountain, but to yourself. And in that listening, something inside you slowed, softened, aligned. You remember the people, Sherpas with steps sure as stone, climbers who once were strangers, now brothers, sisters, tethered not only by rope, but by reverence. You remember the way someone handed you tea without a word after a long day, the way someone else shared oxygen when you had none. The mountain did not make these moments, but she held them. She blessed them with her vast quiet. And you remember the fear, not loud, not panicked, but present. The way your hands shook when the wind rose without warning. The way your heart raced when a crevasse appeared where there had been none. But the fear changed, didn't it? It became respect. It became understanding. It became the knowledge that risk is not recklessness, it is reverence. You begin to see Everest everywhere now, in the curve of a bird's flight, in the shadow of a tall building against the pavement, in the breath you take before you speak. Her silence lives inside you, not as absence, but as anchor. There's a kind of transformation that can't be explained, only felt. A reweaving of self, a remembering of what was never gone, only buried. The mountain did not give you this. She only cleared enough of the noise for you to find it again. And now, as you lie here, far from ice and altitude, you realize you are still climbing. Every patient conversation, every moment you choose quiet over urgency, every time you listen before you speak, these are ascents. Every kindness, every breath that honors stillness. Everest is not behind you. She walks with you. Let this first epilogue be a resting place. A ridge where you pause, look back at the path behind, and forward at the sky ahead. You need not speak. You need not move. Just breathe. Just be. The story continues, not in steps, but in silence. Not in distance, but in depth. Sleep now. The mountain watches, not from above, but from within. Stillness is not the end of movement. It is its echo. And in the deep quiet that follows your long journey with Everest, something stirs. Not a noise, not a voice, but a presence, a breath that touches your thoughts, as if the mountain is not behind you, but has folded herself into your ribs. This second epilogue is not reflection, it is integration. The moment when the story you lived becomes the silence you carry. You begin to notice small things again. The sound of a spoon against a ceramic cup, the slow blink of a candle's flame, a leaf turning in the wind. These are not Everest. And yet, in each, she reveals herself. You have seen the highest snow. Now you begin to see the height in every detail. What was once grand is now familiar. What was once distant is now near. There are things you do not speak of, even to those who ask. The sound of your own breath at 8,500 meters. The way time shifted, softened, thinned. The strange weightlessness of silence. not because they are too painful, but because they are too complete. They exist whole within you, needing no words. Some memories resist storytelling because they are still living inside you. They are not stories. They are shifts in the foundation of who you are. You dream differently now. The dreams come slowly, like snow beginning to fall. They are not dramatic, not vivid. They are wide, spacious. You walk paths in your sleep that feel like ridgelines. You descend through thoughts that feel like clouds. Everest has not left your dreams. She has become their horizon. And sometimes, when you wake, you carry that same lightness into your morning, as if your thoughts are still walking in thin air. Your voice has changed. You speak with pauses, not because you are unsure, but because you are listening, even as you speak. You understand now that silence is not empty. It is sacred. It holds what cannot be said, what should not be rushed. Everest taught you that in every gust of wind, she chose not to send. And in those pauses, others begin to listen, too. They begin to feel the mountain without needing to climb. When you walk through your days now, there is a slowness in you, not from fatigue, but from reverence. You look people in the eye longer. You hear more than words when someone speaks. You rest your hand on doorknobs, on stair rails, on stone walls, as if feeling for a heartbeat beneath them. This is not habit. This is memory. Your body remembering what it is to touch a mountain. Your fingers recalling the cold logic of rock and rope, the trust that lived in every grip. There are days you miss the cold, not the pain of it, but the clarity, the precision it required, the way each movement mattered, how every breath was earned. That sharpness lives in you still, not as discomfort, but as awareness. Everest has refined you. There's a part of you now that seeks spaces stripped of clutter, that welcomes effort, that hungers for the kind of purity only challenge can bring. Sometimes, when you close your eyes in a crowd, the noise begins to fade, and you hear wind again. Thin, high, clean, and with it, the crunch of snow, the groan of ice, the creak of fabric stiff with frost. Your body relaxes. Your mind grows still. For a moment, Everest is with you, not as a memory, but as a posture of the soul. She does not arrive in ceremony. She reappears in quietness. You don't look for her anymore. You recognize her in unexpected places, in the kindness of a stranger, in the silence between notes of music, in the way light filters through curtains. She has become less a mountain and more a mirror, reflecting back the parts of yourself that the climb revealed. She shows up in the way you wait for someone to finish speaking, in the way you hold grief like a fragile lantern, and joy like a snowflake that won't last. You begin to live not just with memory, but with rhythm, a slower morning, a longer breath, a gaze that lingers. You find peace in the waiting, for the kettle to boil, for the sun to set, for a friend to find the right word. Because Everest taught you that all things arrive in time, and that time itself is sacred. Let this second epilogue be a shelter, a small cave carved from wind and stone, where you sit now, not to escape, but to belong. Let it hold you. Let it remind you. You are not what you conquered. You are what you cherished. You are not the summit. You are the stillness it revealed. Sleep now, in the breath of what you became. The mountain is no longer above you. She is inside you. The mountain never meant to be climbed. She was not built for footsteps or flags. She simply rose, slowly, steadily, into the sky, shaped by time and silence. And yet, because we are human, we looked up and saw something sacred, something that called us not to conquer, but to remember. In this third and final epilogue, Everest does not speak again. She is finished speaking. It is your turn now to carry her voice in your own stillness. You know now that ascent is not vertical. It is inward. And when the path turns downward, when the rope slackens, the snow thins, the air thickens again, the journey does not end. The summit was not a peak. It was a mirror. It showed you how little you need, how much you already have, how wide the sky can feel when your heart is quiet. You walk through the world differently now, not with pride, but with patience. You recognize storms before they arrive, not in clouds, but in people. You feel tension like altitude, and you know how to breathe through it. Everest has given you more than memory. She has changed the way you carry your breath. There will be days when you feel far from her, when the noise returns, the rush, the weight of things that don't matter. On those days, go back, not with boots or plans, but with silence. Close your eyes. Remember the crunch of snow, the blue of sky, the hum of wind, the sound your heart made when it stopped racing and started listening. There are lessons you never asked for. The way humility feels like strength. The way fear becomes clarity when faced fully. The way being small can be sacred. The mountain taught these without words, just by being. You are not alone. Others have walked this path, and others will. You will see them. You will know them, not by their gear or stories, but by their quiet, by their gaze that lingers on the horizon, by their reverence for pause. You begin to teach without meaning to. Someone asks a question, and you answer with less certainty, but more truth. Someone rushes, and you offer a slower way. You create space, in conversation, in emotion, in rooms where no one thought to be still. You are not preaching Everest. You are becoming her. In this life, there will be many mountains, some made of stone, others of grief, of change, of love that demands your whole heart. But now you know how to climb. Not quickly, not loudly, but with presence, with breath, with the understanding that some summits are not meant to be stood on, but circled, honored, held in view. You do not need to return. Everest is not a place anymore. She is a silence you carry, a posture you return to, a part of you that knows how to kneel without falling. So let this final epilogue rest inside you like a final step before camp. Let it be a firelight after frost. Let it be the warmth of tea shared with no need for words. The story is finished, but you are not. Sleep now, not to forget, but to remember more deeply. The mountain is with you, always.